When I had a miscarriage in a car accident, Ethan happened to pass by with his female assistant. Seeing my white dress stained with blood, he covered the curious eyes of the female assistant, coldly said, "Unlucky, don't look," and sped away. Late that night, I found a lace underwear that didn't belong to me in the corner of the closet in the bedroom. After closing the closet door, I calmly dialed the phone. "Mr. Chen, I've made up my mind. I can leave this city next week and join your company." Chapter 1. "That's great, Leah, welcome to join us." The next second after the phone call ended, Ethan just walked out of the bathroom. His hair was half dry, and there was a hint of moisture on his body. He used to take a shower for only 5 minutes. Recently, he always carries his phone with him and takes at least half an hour to wash. "Who were you talking to just now?" When he asked me the question, Ethan's eyes were still on the phone. I told him truthfully that I had just finished talking to Mr. Chen. The man just said, "Oh." I know that he didn't hear what I said as usual, and I didn't make a fuss for the first time. I started editing my resignation letter on my phone. When Ethan picked up the water cup, but couldn't drink the soothing tea I would make for him every night, his eyes finally looked at me like alms. "Leah, I took your CT report to the orthopedic specialist, and he said that you only had some skin injuries, just be careful not to let the wound touch water." I typed with my eyes fixed on it. "Got it." This afternoon, my calf was stitched with 8 stitches due to a car accident. Not only that, I was also found to be 4 weeks pregnant and threatened with miscarriage. The doctor regretfully said that if I could be sent to the hospital earlier, maybe the baby could be saved. Seeing that I looked unusually cold, Ethan frowned and was about to come over to see what I was busy with. At this moment, his phone vibrated. The man immediately raised the corners of his mouth and turned his head to walk into the study. At this moment, I clicked on Ethan's Instagram with a small account. I saw a new dynamic visible to everyone except me. Apology. Ethan, the one who apologized. I shouldn't have broken my promise to the cutest little assistant in the universe. I promised to take the little assistant to a big meal after get off work on time. But because of the busy work, she was hungry for a full 10 minutes. I was wrong. From now on, I will definitely change my ways and be a good boss. After I clicked the like button, I happened to receive the contract sent by Mr. Chen. Clicking on the contract link, I signed without hesitation. The next morning, Ethan got up early and bought soup dumplings from a well-known old store. As I was about to open the insulated bag of crab soup dumplings, the man slapped my hand and said, "Don't you like dumplings? I bought the shrimp dumplings for you." I was stunned for a moment, and soon realized that the crab soup dumplings were bought for Clara. I couldn't help asking Ethan, "I've been in love with you for 7 years, don't you know that I'm allergic to shrimp?" Ethan's face changed slightly, and he stood up suddenly, saying coldly, "You're looking for trouble. Eat it if you want." As Ethan was about to leave, I walked into the room and took out a bag. "When you see Clara later, please return this to her for me." Seeing the lace underwear inside, Ethan's eyes flashed with astonishment. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to explain something, but seeing that I didn't look like I was going to argue with him, he only said, "I'll tell Clara not to be so forgetful in the future." Seeing that I was in a bad mood, Ethan offered to take me to work today. We have been in love for 7 years. Even if we have quarreled, he, as a boss, has always been so clear about the distinction between get off work and private that he has never given me a ride to work. On Clara's first day at work, she began to enjoy his car pickup and drop off. Chapter 2. Thinking of this, I dropped the chopsticks on the ground, and tried to pick them up with trembling fingertips. When I straightened up, Ethan had already walked to the entrance. He left without looking back, saying, "There's something urgent at the company. I'll take you there next time." Then he left in a hurry. Half an hour later, I limped to my workstation. For some reason, the eyes of my colleagues around me were mostly sympathetic. When I went to the tea room to get water, I heard 2 colleagues whispering, "So, Ethan really abandoned Leah and got together with that Clara? That's for sure. You didn't see it this morning. That Clara just had her period and stained her skirt. Ethan carried her to the top floor office like a princess in front of all the supervisors in the conference room. The mug in my hand slipped and broke. The gossip in the tea room stopped abruptly. I squatted on the ground, silently picked up the broken pieces of the cup, and threw them all into the trash can. I worked overtime until 10 o'clock in the evening. My shoulders suddenly felt heavy. It was Ethan who put his suit jacket on me. "Leah, why didn't you reply to my message?" I didn't look back, but just turned on my phone and took a look at the unread message. "What flavor of milk tea do you girls like to drink?" 3 years ago, I couldn't help asking Ethan for the first cup of milk tea in autumn. At that time, Ethan looked at me with disgust. "Leah, you are an old woman who is almost 30 years old, don't follow the trend to disgust me." But now, Ethan took the initiative to bring me a cup of milk tea. Seeing that I didn't touch the milk tea, he continued to work. Ethan's eyes showed strange colors. "Didn't you ask for this before?" I said casually, "It's too late, drinking it will cause insomnia." Silence for a moment. The man said coldly, "I'm going to the bathroom, and then we will go home together." Half a minute later, Ethan's phone, which was placed on my workstation, lit up. It was Clara's message. Ethan, you idiot who would send dozens of cups of milk tea at a time? You don't really want to turn Clara into a little pig, do you? I got home after 11 o'clock. I walked into the bedroom and started to pack my personal belongings. As soon as Ethan entered the bedroom after taking a shower, he found that the things on the dressing table were obviously reduced. He frowned. Leah, I'm going to Paris on a business trip next month. If you have anything you want to buy, make a list for me. I replied to him without thinking, no need to bother, I don't need anything. Anyway, I'm leaving in a few days. Why bother? Throwing the bath towel on the bed, Ethan looked at me coldly. Just because I bought a breakfast that doesn't suit your taste, you are angry with me until now, right? I was about to explain that I was not angry. The man had already sneered. You know I hate pretentious women the most, Leah, you crossed the line. Walking into the study, Ethan slammed the door shut. After 7 years of love, Ethan has launched the Cold War countless times. And I have been humble and begging for peace countless times. However, this time, I really don't care. Ethan stayed in the study all night and didn't hear a knock on the door. The next morning, I made breakfast for 2 people as usual. Just as I finished my breakfast and was about to go to work, Ethan walked out of the study with a cold face. He held up his phone and ordered me in an irritable tone, Leah, I'll give you a day off. Make me an identical fondant cake before 5 p.m. Chapter 3. Ever since Ethan and I confirmed our relationship, I have made his birthday cake every year. I have seen the cartoon pattern on his phone. This is Clara's WeChat profile picture. The living room fell into silence. When Ethan realized that he had proposed an unreasonable task, I nodded. Send me the picture, I'm going out to buy materials now. If there was no Ethan at the dinner party 7 years ago, I would definitely not be able to get out of it unscathed as a newcomer to the workplace. After making this cake, I really don't owe him anything. Looking at my lonely back as I walked to the door, Ethan called me in a daze. I didn't look back, but just asked, any other instructions? I've transferred the money for the cake materials to you. I got on the elevator and opened the dialogue box with Ethan. I found it funny that I had sent him a total of 5,363 messages. And he replied to me, 25, in the living room. I heard the prompt sound that the transfer of 100,000 yuan had been returned. Ethan couldn't help but hold his phone tightly. At 8 o'clock that night, I received a call from Ethan. Leah, where are you? I was having dinner at a noodle restaurant near my home, so I didn't answer him directly, but just asked, is there anything wrong? The man said softly, nothing. I just want to tell you that the cake you made is as delicious as always. After a pause, he added in a low voice, thank you for your hard work. Before I could reply, Clara's delicate voice rang out, Sister Leah. I heard from Ethan that you made my birthday cake today by yourself. Is that true? Oh my God, sister, you are really amazing. Unlike me, I am clumsy and always called a little fool by Ethan. The next second after Clara invited me to the birthday party, Ethan's voice appeared again. Leah, you don't have to come. After saying that, the man hung up the phone. However, a few minutes later, he sent a location and a message. When you come over, bring Clara a bag of tomato chips at a nearby convenience store. When I pushed open the door of the box, Ethan was feeding Clara cake. Seeing me, the man's eyes were full of displeasure. I know that the location and text messages were sent by Clara. But I still came. Hearing Clara call me sister-in-law with a sweet smile, Ethan glared at me coldly. Didn't I tell you not to come? I'm sorry, Ethan, I wanted to eat potato chips so I tricked Sister Leah to come. Seeing Clara pouting in grievance, Ethan rubbed her hair lovingly and called her a little greedy cat in a low voice. Realizing that the man was in a good mood, I immediately took out the resignation letter. Ethan, a colleague has something to do at home and is in a hurry to leave. Please approve it. In theory, the resignation application should be approved by the company's Human Resources Department. But after seeing that the applicant was me, the Human Resources Manager directly returned the form. The lights in the box were dim, and Ethan, who was busy flirting with Clara, did as I wished, without even looking at the name on the form, and signed it directly. Chapter 4. However, when I was about to take the form back, the man suddenly held my hand. He asked me thoughtfully, Leah, you came here just for this? Seeing me nod, Ethan's face became a little gloomy. In less than 2 seconds, he let me go quickly as if he had been electrocuted. I guess he touched the blisters on my hand caused by boiling sugar. I felt sick. At this time, Clara seemed to have discovered something interesting and said to me, Sister Leah, the red rope on your wrist looks so familiar. Oh, I remember that I saw an identical one in my trash can a few days ago. I pretended not to see Ethan's action of covering his wrist. I replied lightly, this kind of red rope is very common. If you like it, I can give you the one on my hand. Clara didn't want it. When I walked out of the box, I immediately found the trash can and threw away the red rope that I had been carrying for 7 years. While waiting for the elevator, I received a call from my mother. She asked me if I had booked the ticket home. I said, I'll book it in a few days. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan's puzzled voice came from behind me, what do you want to book? After hanging up the phone, I lied calmly, there is a very popular restaurant, which needs to be booked in advance. After hearing what I said, Ethan didn't say anything else. He just took me to a suite in a nearby hotel. He started to deal with urgent business with his laptop. We worked tacitly until the early morning. While waiting for feedback from overseas customers, I couldn't help but fall asleep. When I woke up the next day, I found myself lying on the bed. Ethan was leaning against the head of the bed reading the Financial Daily. Seeing that I woke up, he asked the waiter to bring breakfast. Halfway through breakfast, the man suddenly asked me why I changed my mobile phone password. I changed it if I wanted to. The original password was the combination of my birthday and his. Since we decided to separate, it is naturally impossible to use it forever. Ethan put down the knife and fork in his hand and said, Leah, didn't you always ask me to go to the movies with you? There is a movie theater nearby. The boss took the lead in absenteeism, and I had no right to refuse. In a quiet and deserted movie theater, I snuggled with my boyfriend and watched a comedy with popcorn in my hands. This sweet scene that I had longed for was perfectly realized at this moment, but I was not interested and kept yawning. Ethan frowned when he found that I was distracted. You chose this movie, what? Don't you like it? No, it's pretty good. Hearing my perfunctory response, the man pursed his thin lips and seemed to have something to say. At this time, his mobile phone received a message. Just like that, he walked out without saying hello. Ethan didn't come back until the movie was over. Just as I was about to call him, I heard a familiar sweet female voice coming from not far away. Ethan, you are so awesome. I saw Clara, who received a huge doll, laughing excitedly and jumping on Ethan, kissing the man on the cheek. Ethan held Clara's thigh, and the smile in his eyes disappeared instantly after seeing me. Clara looked at me in surprise. After a few seconds, she screamed shyly and covered her face and stepped back from Ethan. Sister Leah, you are here too. Sister Leah, please don't misunderstand me. I was too excited just now, so I kissed Ethan. Ethan gently scratched Clara's nose and said to her in a doting tone, what is there to apologize for? Then he looked at me and said nonchalantly, the movie is over so soon? Before I could speak, the mall suddenly sounded a shrill fire alarm. The crowd scattered in panic. Before I could react, Ethan had already taken Clara's hand and escorted her to the emergency exit. 5 minutes later, the alarm that was triggered by human error was lifted. Ethan returned to the original place. He looked around for a long time, but I was nowhere to be seen. 2 hours later, after completing the resignation procedures, I appeared at the train station dragging my suitcase. While waiting for the train, my phone kept ringing for no reason. The caller ID was Ethan. I was too lazy to answer and simply set it to silent. The moment before boarding the train, I sent Ethan a message, let's break up. After sending the message, I pulled out the SIM card and threw it into the trash can. I arrived at the train station in my hometown near midnight. As soon as I walked out of the ticket gate, I saw my father who had been waiting for a long time. When I got in my father's car, I saw a big bag of my favorite snack yogurt on the passenger seat. Before driving, my father happily put a straw in the yogurt and put it in my hand. Seeing my father's graying temples, I couldn't help but burst into tears. Dad, I'll never leave this time. I want to stay with you and Mom for the rest of my life. Silly girl, whether you stay with me and your mom or not, you are our most precious Leah. My father saw that I was in a bad mood, but I didn't take the initiative to talk, so he didn't ask anything. I went home, took a shower, and ate the home-cooked meal my parents made. I lay down on the bed at 10 o'clock in the evening, opened the music software, and was just about to listen to some soothing music to help me sleep. But I unexpectedly saw several private messages, and the person who sent the private messages was my best female colleague in the company. She was surprised by my sudden resignation. She asked me sincerely, did something happen? Is there anything she can help? Just when I was thinking about how to reply, the female colleague sent a video. She said that this video of Leah, Ethan, and Clara has been circulated in the work group. After hesitating for a moment, I finally clicked on this video. The video was captured from the company's conference room surveillance video. There were only 3 people in the conference room: Ethan, Clara, and the HR manager. Although the surveillance video did not record any sound, I recognized the piece of paper Ethan was holding in his hand. It was the resignation application form I had just submitted this afternoon. At the beginning of the video, the male manager of the HR department was so nervous and frightened that he seemed to be about to cry, and he kept bowing and explaining something. But Ethan kept staring at the resignation application in his hand with his eyes down, and did not even look at him. After 3 minutes and 40 seconds, Ethan, who had been sitting in the same position, waved his hand casually, and the HR manager bent down and left as if he had been pardoned. Standing behind the man, Clara, with an ugly face, forced a sweet smile. Just as she was about to touch Ethan's shoulder, the man suddenly swung his arm, sweeping the hot coffee next to him to the ground, and she stepped back several steps in fear. The coffee splashed on his face and clothes, but the man stood up without caring, and walked around with a smile. It was not until his phone seemed to have received some message that he stopped walking and quickly picked it up to check. The message should be very long. Otherwise, the man would not stand there motionless for several minutes. Seeing the man put down his phone with a cold expression, Clara hugged the man's waist from behind. Just as she was about to speak, she was frightened by the man's furious behavior of suddenly smashing his phone at the electronic screen in the center of the conference room, and she sprained her ankle and fell down. The electronic screen was smashed into pieces. Clara was pale and sobbing. Ethan turned and walked towards Clara. The video stopped here. In fact, I didn't need to watch it to know that Ethan would definitely help Clara up. Then he apologized to her softly, and pampered her more with a sense of guilt. After exiting the video interface, I sent a blessing message to my female colleague. Although we can't work side by side in the future, I still hope that she can be promoted step by step and have a bright future. The 4th day after returning home. With my parents' care and love, I was so radiant that I went to meet up with 2 of my best friends from high school. These 2 kept asking me which beauty salon I had my injections at. After joking around for a while, my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Thinking that it was only 2 days since I changed my number, it was probably a boring sales call, so I turned off the screen without paying attention. Not long after I got home that evening, the doorbell rang. I ordered takeaway milk tea and opened the door without thinking, it's just in time. I saw that the person standing outside the door was Ethan. The smile on my face disappeared instantly. I don't know how he found out where my parents live. I just know that I never want to see him again. Ethan's eyes darkened when he realized that I wanted to close the door immediately. He risked his fingers being pinched off and stretched out his hand without hesitation to block the crack in the door. He asked me hoarsely, Leah, why didn't you answer my call? At this moment, although my mind was a little confused, it did not affect my verbal expression ability. Ethan heard me say word by word, we have broken up, please leave immediately. Hearing the word break up, Ethan seemed to have heard a big joke, and sneered and tightened his grip on the door panel. Break up? When did we break up? How come I didn't know? Chapter 5. Hearing this, my first reaction was that the text message was not sent successfully. But a little thought will tell you that it is impossible. Moreover, even if the text message was not sent successfully, he heard the news of my resignation. Ethan is so smart, he will not be unaware of what this means. Since everything is so obvious, why did he still shamelessly come to my door? I did not ask the doubts in my heart. I just looked at the uninvited guest outside the door with an indifferent face, and said with the remaining temper, if you really don't know, then I will tell you in person now. Ethan, I want to break up with you. Did you hear what I said clearly? If you really have poor hearing, I don't mind repeating it to you again. The man gritted his teeth secretly and looked at me with a cold face. No matter how many times you repeat it, my answer is only one, Leah, I don't agree with your breakup. I obviously did nothing wrong, why do you say break up and break up? Hearing this, I looked at Ethan in shock. I never thought that a person could be so shameless. Just as I was in a daze, my father's curious voice came from the kitchen not far away. Leah, who are you talking to at the door? Dad, I'm not talking. The milk tea I ordered has arrived. By the way, I suddenly remembered that I forgot to pick up a courier. I'm going downstairs now. As I spoke, I pushed Ethan away from the door without mercy. I walked out of the house expressionlessly, took the elevator by myself, and said to him coldly, don't disturb my parents. Let's talk outside if you have anything to say. 10 minutes later, Ethan and I sat face to face in a corner of a Western restaurant near my home. He spoke first, you cut your hair. Seeing that I was still silent, the man who was always indifferent and taciturn praised me for the first time with a flattering tone, the new hairstyle looks good. It suits you very well. Ethan likes women with long flowing hair. In order to cater to his aesthetic taste, I, who was afraid of heat by nature, kept my long black hair for 7 years. But during these 7 years, he never did what he promised me casually, braiding my favorite long braids. At this time, the waiter brought the menu. Before I could say anything, the man had already ordered dinner for 2. He said to me, Leah, you've lost weight. Eat something to fill your stomach. When we go home tomorrow, I'll take you to a really good restaurant. I was really amused by him. What home to go home? Ethan, have you forgotten that you and I are just in a simple relationship and we are not married at all? Hearing what I said, Ethan smiled as if he saw through everything. Leah, we have been together for 7 years. If you want to marry me, just tell me directly. Will I disagree? There is really no need to waste each other's time and go through all this now. Pinching my cold eyebrows, I turned on my phone, retrieved the employment contract for the hostel company, and put it on the table clearly for him to check. As I expected, the man only took a look at the content on my phone, and his handsome face turned pale. Ethan hates betrayal the most in his life. Whether it is work or private life. He can be unfaithful once and never again. I crossed my arms and said calmly, Ethan, I know you have a strong self-esteem. Even if you have no feelings for me, it is difficult for you to accept the word break up from my mouth for a while. In this case, I will give you the opportunity to break up with me now. And no matter who asks me in the future, I will say that you dumped me. Are you satisfied with this? Chapter 6. Time passed by. I was too lazy to waste time without getting a reply. Seeing me about to leave, the anger on Ethan's face immediately turned into panic that could not be concealed. After 7 years of dating, he said to me with an apologetic tone for the first time, Leah, don't leave yet. I know that I have been too busy with work and neglected you in recent years, so you did such a stupid thing. It's okay, I won't blame you. It's just a penalty. As long as you promise to go back with me tomorrow morning, I will pretend that nothing happened. Leah, I really miss the food you cook. Speaking of the food I cook, I remembered that one weekday morning 2 months ago, Ethan suddenly sent me a message asking me to make a plate of pork ribs with preserved plums. That day, I was experiencing menstrual cramps. I rode my bike to the nearest farmer's market under the scorching sun and bought the freshest spare ribs. I returned home with pale lips. I raced against time to cook a balanced spare rib lunchbox before the lunch break. When I arrived at the top floor office door with cold sweat and weak legs, Ethan and Clara just came out. Seeing the lunchbox in my hand, Clara was overjoyed and snatched it away, saying delicately, Thank you for your hard work, Sister Leah. My son Bobby likes the plum spare ribs you make the most. The second favorite is the braised pork chops. Bobby is Clara's pet dog in the company. Seeing Clara feeding the lunchbox to the dog in front of me, Ethan just said to me, Clara and I are going out to eat. When Bobby finishes eating, remember to clean up. Recalling this, I looked straight into the man's eyes, spoke clearly, and said slowly, Ethan, I won't go back with you. Where my parents are is my real home. Besides, I can't marry you. Because I don't love you anymore. Ethan was obviously stunned for a moment, and then laughed in anger, You don't love me anymore? We haven't been separated for less than a week, and you tell me now that you have let go of me. My feelings. Leah, don't you think what you said is ridiculous? I looked at him with contempt, not flinching, Ethan, the real ridiculous person is you. You are obviously fed up with me and think I am dispensable. You are obviously fond of Clara and like her so much that you want to give her all the best things in the world. Why don't you admit that you did cheat on her and fell in love with her? You are deceiving yourself and playing with 2 women at the same time, and then wasting my youth day after day. Do you think it's fun? After years of love, Ethan is used to my gentleness and consideration, and obeys everything. Faced with my reasoned and unprecedented aggressiveness, the man's face turned from red to blue, and then became very pale, until all the ordered dishes were served and turned cold. Ethan spoke in a hoarse voice, unable to hide his dejection, Leah, you misunderstood me. I really didn't cheat. There is one thing I never told you. I once had a sister who died unexpectedly. Her name was Sophia. When I first heard Clara call me brother, I seemed to have a vision that Sophia was still alive. That's why I wanted to try my best to fulfill all of Clara's wishes. I know you must think I'm making excuses, but I swear I really didn't lie to you. In order to prove that Sophia did exist, Ethan took out the only photo of him and his sister that he had kept in the hidden compartment of his wallet. Chapter 7. Facing the man's serious explanation, I just lowered my eyes to look at the time on my phone, and said calmly, What you think of Clara is your own business. Ethan, in fact, whether Clara is there or not, I will break up with you. Having said this, I stood up and took just 2 steps when Ethan grabbed my wrist. He said, Leah, we have been together for 7 years. Do you remember what you whispered to me in my ear on the night we were together? You said that you like me so much and you will always like me. You said that as long as we hold hands for one more day, your love for me will grow a little more. Facing the man's panic-stricken eyes, I pulled his fingers apart one by one. Ethan, let alone 7 years, even if we have been together for 70 years. I can dump you like today without any psychological burden. From now on, you'd better not take women's casual love words seriously. After hearing my last words, Ethan let go of his hand. Ignoring the trembling and bitterness in his heart, Ethan curled his lips at me with red eyes. Leah, don't worry, you are not as important as you think. After that, he bought the fastest flight right in front of me and walked out of the restaurant before me. Watching the man disappear from behind, I breathed a sigh of relief from the inside out. Time quickly came to Monday. I officially joined the new company and started a new job in life. Those disappointments that I thought I would never let go of in my life were quickly and quietly smoothed out and forgotten under the healing of time, family affection, and friendship. If I have to nitpick and point out something wrong with my current life, it is that I may have been so busy recently that I have a bit of nervous breakdown. Occasionally, I have an inexplicable illusion that someone is watching me from the dark. More than a month later, on an ordinary weekend night, I came to the KTV box as scheduled and had fun with my bestie and the relatives and friends they brought with them. After everyone had a good time, I took the initiative to go to the supermarket at the front desk to get some food for everyone. I didn't expect Carter to follow me. He is my bestie Evelyn's cousin. When I was in high school, I often went to Evelyn's house to do homework. Carter lived next door at the time. For a while, I even gave him free junior high school math lessons. Before I could say anything, the handsome and tall young man said, "I heard that you will not leave again after coming back this time." I blinked and poked his forehead lightly like when I was a child. "No, why haven't I heard you call me sister since I came back?" "Be careful, I will go to your parents' house and complain about you next time." Hearing me say this, Carter must have recalled some interesting past. He lowered his head and smiled, staring at me with burning eyes. "Leah, you." Before he finished speaking, I felt a pain in my wrist, and suddenly I was dragged backwards by a strong force. However, I did not really fall, but fell into the chest of a man who was once the most familiar to me. Chapter 8. Ethan? Why are you here? According to the normal schedule, the man should be in romantic Paris with Clara, enjoying the happiness and sweetness of a public-funded love affair. Faced with my surprised question, Ethan still looked at me expressionlessly. "Leah, I gave you a whole month. No matter how angry you were with me before, you should have calmed down at this point." After saying this, Ethan glanced at Carter coldly with a high-handed, swearing sovereignty attitude. The second before I was about to yell at him for being crazy, Clara showed up. She held 2 ice creams in her hands, rolled her eyes at me in a weird way where Ethan couldn't see, and then squeezed out a fake sweet smile and said to me, "Sister Leah, Ethan has been hiring a private detective to protect you for more than a month. He really can't live without you. Sister, you are magnanimous. Eat this ice cream and forgive Ethan and Clara's previous unintentional mistakes, okay?" Silence for a while. I smiled at Ethan and said, "Let me go first, let's find a quiet place to have a good chat." When Ethan heard me say this, a hint of joy flashed in his eyes, and he immediately let go of my hand. But the next second, I made a move that was beyond everyone's expectations. "Ah!" Clara's sharp scream attracted everyone's attention when I took the ice cream from her and threw it directly at her face. Seeing Clara's funny scream with an ice cream on her head and an ice cream in her left eye, several passers-by couldn't help laughing. This is not the end. I wiped off the ice cream crumbs on my hands. When I was young, my parents were always called because of fighting. I looked indifferent and grabbed Clara's long hair in time when she wanted to throw herself into Ethan's arms and seek comfort. "Clara, did your eyes cramp just now? Who are you rolling your eyes at?" I didn't give Clara a chance to reply. In her terrified eyes, I slapped her 5 or 6 times in a row. Clara's cheeks were swollen and her nose was bleeding. At this moment, her crying finally turned from fake to real, hoarse and unpleasant. I looked disgusted and pushed her directly to Ethan's position like throwing garbage. What's funny is that Ethan not only didn't reach out to catch Clara, but also frowned and took a big step back when Clara was crying and crawling towards him, about to touch the corner of his pants. Clara was completely dumbfounded. She opened her tearful eyes, surprised and heartbroken that Ethan didn't even look at her, and walked straight to me, expressing her loyalty to me with sincere eyes. "Leah, I have made it clear to Clara that I have always treated her as a sister. Those inappropriate physical contacts that made you angry in the past will never happen again from now on." Ethan pretended to hug me, but before I could make any move, Carter had already protected me firmly behind him with a cold face, and said to Ethan with disdain, "Don't touch Leah before she agrees." Before Carter finished speaking, Ethan's face was dark, and he waved his fist at the young man angrily without saying a word. "Who do you think you are to dare to interfere in the matter between me and my girlfriend?" The young man was hit hard, and veins on his forehead bulged instantly. However, fists and feet have no eyes, and in order not to hurt me standing behind him, Carter just sneered and rubbed the painful corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. Carter could bear it, but I couldn't. In front of everyone, I stood up and slapped Ethan. Then I looked at him with disgust. "Ethan, if you are sick, go to a mental hospital for treatment. Don't be crazy here and embarrass yourself." Chapter 9. The force of the slap was not that strong, but Ethan seemed to become a statue, standing there motionless. He really didn't understand. How could someone say that they could let go of a relationship that they had been together for 7 years? Did I never love him at all? How is this possible? Whether it was friends, colleagues, or childhood friends and relatives, anyone who had seen me and him together would say with envy that Leah really loved Ethan. Even he himself believed from the bottom of his heart that as long as he didn't mention breaking up, I would stay with him forever. He used to be so fearless. In a trance, Ethan heard me ask Carter with concern if his face was okay. In the corner of my eye, I saw Carter pinching my palm with heartache and asked me if it hurt. Ethan clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot, and he screamed at me in intolerance. "Leah, I am the man you have loved for 7 years. How can you treat me like this for an outsider?" I was really amused. "Ethan, how many times do I have to tell you that I, Leah, don't want you anymore?" Seeing me holding Carter's hand and pretending to leave, Ethan's tears could no longer be controlled and flowed down. "Leah, Ethan shouted my name heartbreakingly, but the force he used to hold my wrist was so light that I had a ridiculous illusion that he treated me like a treasure. Our eyes met. I have never seen such a distraught expression on Ethan's face. He looked at my profile humbly. I apologize to you, Leah. I shouldn't have hit your friend. I'm sorry, Leah. I'm really sorry. You can hit me and scold me however you want. I didn't mean to make you unhappy. I just want you to know that I really don't love Clara. When the man said this, Clara, with swollen eyes and face, rolled and crawled to his feet in disbelief. Just as she was about to cry out, Ethan crushed the woman's face to the ground and kicked her away mercilessly. Leah, I will fire Clara now, or I will make her disappear forever, okay? I promise you, I will never look for any female assistants again. I will never look for any female assistants. Sighing deep in my heart, I interrupted Ethan and said, you don't have to tell me this, I really don't care. Ethan was stunned for half a second, shook his head gently, and his tone trembled unconsciously. Leah, you care about me. I know that you were just disappointed with what I did in the past. But now I know what I did wrong. As long as you are willing to give me a chance, I will really change. Ethan, I will say it again for the last time, I have broken up with you. Having said this, I took Carter back to the box. As if nothing had happened, the music continued and the dance continued. One late night 2 months later, I accidentally received a call from Ethan with an unfamiliar number. The man smiled and asked me directly, did he and I have a child? The man's tone was so drunk that I could tell. In addition, there were some subtle whirring noises coming from the phone. I thought he must have seen the hospital records that I didn't take away. There was nothing to hide about this matter. So I not only admitted it generously, but also smiled and congratulated him sincerely. It's a good thing that the child is gone. Ethan, don't you always hate being bound the most? There was a long silence. Beep beep beep, the phone was hung up by the man. It was not until the end of the year. I learned from a female colleague who had worked with me that Ethan had a drunk driving accident and became a vegetable. However, Ethan's parents are very rich, and even though the chance of their son waking up is too slim, they still did not give up treatment. In the high-end restaurant, Carter came out of the bathroom and saw me looking down at my phone with a strange and dazed expression, so he asked casually, Leah, what's wrong? What kind of shocking gossip did my sister send you again? Putting down the phone, I smiled indifferently, nothing. By the way, don't book this restaurant in the future. It's expensive and not delicious. Let's go to eat hot pot next time. Carter held my cold fingers, put them to his lips and kissed. Okay, I'll listen to you. When we walked out of the restaurant, the first snow of this year happened to fall. Carter was afraid that I would be cold, so he put his coat on me and once again stood under the street light with flowers to confess to me. The young man blushed and said a little embarrassedly that it is said that as long as you confess on the day of the first snow, you can be together forever. Although I don't believe in forever, I still smiled and accepted the flowers, threw myself into his warm arms, and said to him, okay. The moment of happiness always passes in a flash. The only thing I can do is not to ask about the future and enjoy the present. As long as this moment is happy and free, that is enough. End of story.